Hello, the purpose of this video is to introduce my new book, Himalayan Sound Revelations, all about singing bowls. I got my first singing bowl in 1971, so I've been working with bowls for over 40 years now. It is said that the bowls carry teaching, and what is in the book is I'm sharing some of the teaching that I have received in the form of revelations, or sound revelations. So at the beginning of the book we look at what there is as regards history of the bowls, any kind of means of substantiating the fact that they are used in different rituals by different people in Tibet and in India and the Far East. So various people have researched this and met different lamas and whatnot who work with bowls, and that's all included in the first chapter, and a certain ritual for working with the bowls. In the second chapter we look at Chinese bells, because bowls are part of the bell family, and if we look for the earliest form of bells, they arise in ancient China about 4,000 years ago. And then that leads on later in the book to analysing the acoustics of the bowls. In chapter 3 we're looking at the Tibetan side of things, what's known about the bowls in Tibet and the spiritual background of Tibet, which leads us into the way of working with sound. Then in chapter 4 are the Ting-sha, and these are the little Tibetan meditation symbols that many of us are aware of. They come in pairs, held together, usually with a piece of leather thong, but here I've changed that to cord. That's the traditional means of striking them. That's quite a nice, peaceful pair. But in the book I talk about using such instruments for space cleansing, and there we're looking for a particular quality in the sound that is more useful for space clearing. So the purpose of this is to illustrate, well, in the book I talk about the difference, but obviously it's a lot easier if you can hear the difference between these pairs of cymbals. The cymbals are paired in such a way as to produce fast oscillation of beats between them, a tremolo kind of effect. And you hopefully heard that with that pair. The next chapter introduces us to the drilbu, which is the Tibetan bell. So the Ting-sha and the drilbu appear on a number of different recordings of Tibetan ritual music, which I've been buying since the 1960s. So there's no controversy about whether they're Buddhist instruments or not. They most certainly are. The other form that the Ting-sha can take is a single Ting-sha with a bone striker. These are mostly used for meditation. This is a very old Ting-sha, hundreds of years old, centuries old. But coming back to the drilbu, this is the drilbu, and in the book we explain all the meaning of all the symbols, the vajras here, the dorjes, and usually it does come with a dorje, which is held in the right hand and the bell in the left hand. These embossed patterns and symbols are representative of a kind of three-dimensional mandala, and so the bell is most certainly consecrated to Buddhist things. It can be played in this manner, similar to the bowls, although it's mostly done this way by the Burm, the pre-Buddhist indigenous religion of Tibet. So that's the drilbu. Then in chapter 6 we talk about choosing a bowl, all the considerations one would need to make, and how to look after your bowls, how to clean your bowls if they arrive dirty. I've even had some bowls that have got tar on them, so they definitely need cleaning. Chapter 7, we talk about yin and yang, the bowls that I have categorized into yin bowls and yang bowls. During the many decades that I've given talks and lectures on the bowls, I have talked about yin and yang, and I've given a number of names to different specific types of bowl. These have now become used by merchants, and they've not been represented in the way in which they were originally given. So yin and yang bowls, there's a chapter on those, and I will be putting videos after this video. There will be a video showing yang bowls and yin bowls, and a further video showing how a contrast between those two families of bowls. So for me, that's the primordial difference. A yang bowl has a thick rim and a yin bowl doesn't. But after that it goes in, there's a whole number of sophisticated ways into which that can then unfold. Of course, yang in the Chinese is masculine and yin in the Chinese is feminine. Then we've got mallets and wands. So photographs of the different wands and mallets that you can use. Then chapter 9, we look into the metal of the bowls, what research has been done scientifically to analyse which metals and how much of those metals have been found in certain antique Tibetan bowls. Then we have techniques on how to use the bowls. Ululation, you'll find that on another video on YouTube under my name, where you'll find it called Ululation with Tibetan Singing Bowls. And then in that chapter 10 there are, as I say, some 60 different advanced techniques. One of the advanced techniques which was difficult to put into writing involves using a pair of mallets to perform a roll on a bowl. In drumming you have what's called orthodox technique, which is held where you hold the sticks like this. But in the book I talk about matched grip, which is what most rock drummers use, where you hold the sticks in the same way in both hands. And what the technique is you basically use the fingers, especially this one, to move the stick. These are a pair of vibraphone mallets. On the chapter with advanced techniques, there are a number of my CDs mentioned, which I've been recording for decades now, where certain of those techniques appear on those recordings, and you can listen to a good deal of those on my SoundCloud website, which is Frank Perry 4. So another one of the advanced techniques, which is the basis really of many of the exercises that arise in the book, is to do with isolating different partials of the bowl. Now the fundamental of every bowl produces 4. So as the wand goes around the bowl once, it will produce 4 pulses. It will breathe in and out 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. So of course then we can have a whole number of different meditations which are based on the four elements, the four directions, north, south, east and west, and so on. Now if I play this same bowl with a different wand, one which I invented back in the 90s to produce the upper partials, you'll hear a totally different sound. So this is a piece of what's called porcupine wood, which is made from the coconut tree. And that's making 8 beats per circuit. And that, making that sound, this bowl can be used for space clearing. That's what I use this bowl for mostly. But played with the other stick, we got the fundamental with a different energy. I will also put another video up after this one illustrating matched pairs, which is where we have two bowls that sound very similar. One will be slightly higher in pitch than the other one, and when they're played together they reinforce each other, and then these pulses come. In chapter 11 we look at the subtleties of struck and stroke bowls and the spiritual symbolism and meaning of that. Then in chapter 12 we have the bowl stories and subtle dimensions, so that's various stories about the different types of bowls that have come to me. The first part of that chapter is about chakra bowls, deity bowls and master bowls. I have certain of my bowls, 4 of them are tuned into 4 different spiritual masters, which again I've been sharing since 1981 when I first got a bowl that was tuned into a spiritual master. And then I found people coming to me who said they bought a master bowl, and obviously it didn't resemble anything I was talking about. Then there are the talking bowl and the panic bowl. You will find those videos on each of those bowls on my YouTube site as well, where it's called the panic bowl, and then there's one called the talking bowl, because again people have contacted me saying they own a talking bowl and it's not what they own. So I'm showing you what these bowls that were given those names back in 1981 or earlier by Dr. Alain Presenza. I'm showing what he meant by those terms, and they are very rare bowls and very specific sound and energy. Then we look into the spiritual symbolism of the bowls, the actual shape of the bowl. Then in chapter 14 we're looking at elemental bowls. That's to say bowls that are connected with the different elements. And then also in chapter 15 we have detailed information on the fundamentals and the partials of the bowl, the only law that they actually obey. That's to say that their overtone structure is unpredictable, unlike the human voice and normal instruments where you can predict what the overtone will be. With the bowls you cannot. So anybody who says, oh, the bowl is first sound from the bowl is the basic one, then you get the then you get an octave, and then you get the fifth. No, it's not like that. It might be like that with the odd bowl, but it's certainly not the case for all of them. So then we have we've introduced the science behind the partials, and then chapter 16 is a whole load of exercises for working with partials 4, 6, 8, 10 and 12, so up to the 5th partial. Chapter 17 is Nada Yoga, which is the Hindu yoga of sound, and then chapter 18 is Mantra Yoga, the whole science of mantra, of using sound to change our consciousness. Then chapter 19 is planet bowls. This is because there's another term that I originated way back in the 80s when I found that certain of my bowls had their energy was similar to the spiritual energy coming from the planets, certain planets. And so then I did talk about planet bowls, but now people sell planet bowls and they have a different approach. based mostly on the book by Hans Kustu, where he takes the length of time of the orbits of the planets and mathematically reduces them by various octaves until they come within the range of human hearing. But that is a mathematical approach and a logical approach, and I'm using an intuitive approach when I speak about bowls being connected with certain planetary rays. And then we look into the chakras in chapter 20. Included in the book are cymatic pictures of certain bowls. 6 bowls have been selected, and for each one John Stuart Reid, with his cymoscope, an instrument that he invented, was able to play the sound of the bowl into the machine, and then we can see what that sound creates on the surface of water. So there are 6 of those, and that's the first time to my knowledge, and to his, that any singing bowls have been analysed according to cymatics with the cymoscope. Now in chapter 14 on the elemental bowls, we also look at the Dhyani Buddhas for the different elements, and certain of my bowls are tuned into one or other of these Dhyani Buddhas, and then the meditations are given, and also I give you a list of sound qualities that embody that element, so that you can listen to your bowl, or whatever bowls you have, to analyse the sound to see whether it conforms to the energy of any one or other of these elements. But when I speak of Dhyani Buddhas, then this is because the bowl not only has the sound to do with the element, but also I see clairvoyantly that particular deity, that particular being present when I strike the bowl. For an example, I'd like to use the bowl for the Vajra family. This would be the water element, which is the mirror-like wisdom. So it's the ability to become very calm and very still, and to cut through illusions. So for instance, distorted water energy is anger. But the lesson we can learn from that is if you're angry at somebody or something, it's quite amazing how focused you are, how you can think about nothing else but that person, possibly what you'd like to do to them. But then when you come to meditate, you don't have that same focus. Your mind wanders off. Oh, who's doing the cooking tonight? Who's taking the dog for a walk? Have I done this? Have I done that? But when you're angry at somebody, you're very, very focused. So in the tantric tradition, we try and take this basic energy and shift it. So we take that anger, that focus of the anger, and take it to focus upon meditation or upon reality, and find that mirror-like wisdom. So see if you can feel something of this very clean, clear energy of the water family, the Vajra family, or Akshobhya. If you think about water, if I poured a jug of water into this bowl, it would be moving and moving around, and eventually it would become very still. So water is always seeking that absolute stillness, that peace and stillness. And then the surface of that water would be so still, it would be as a mirror, giving a true reflection of whatever is reproduced upon that surface. In chapter 10 we talk about jumping bowls. These are particular bowls that work this way. It's not every bowl, but by moving our hand, again it's something that I've tried to write about, but ideally it should be shown, and I've put a photograph in the book, but I think the film is even better. Sometimes in America it's referred to as the hand wah-wah, because it makes a sound similar to the ululation. It's not produced by using the mouth. So it's quite a marked effect, but not every bowl will do that. I also mentioned fountain bowls. These are bowls that I discovered that are the equivalent of Chinese spouting bowls. These bowls have a line engraved on the inside in a strange place, which, you know, not normally part of the decoration. And if I found that if I filled water up to that line, I would get these fountains in 4 places of the bowl. So that's not an accident. So you'll find those on videos on YouTube by myself again. One is called Visible Sound to Singing Bowls. Power of Sound is another video of another bowl. And then Tibetan Fountain Bowl is one of the very first videos I put up some years back, 6 years ago or so, which is a fountain bowl which is being produced by being struck. On the other two it's being stroked. Now I mentioned a little bit earlier about the video, about the picture, the cymatic pictures produced by John Stuart Reid, and on the video before this one, Singing Bowl Cymatics number 2, you can see a film of the forms that are created by my Padmasambhava bowl on the cymatic video. In the book, like I say, I mentioned over 250 different types of bowls. 100 of those are different shapes, or very different shapes, and then it moves into different sounds you can find in bowls, then different subtle qualities. But there's 100 different shapes. Now some of these, not all 100, but you'll be able to see some of those on my videos on YouTube, where it's called Comparing Singing Bowl Shapes and Sounds, number 1 to number 6. And you'll be able to see on there a number of different singing bowls, Chinese, Japanese, Burmese, and so on. It might help you to see where your bowl has come from. Now with the cymatics, we have the books by Geoffrey Hudson, a theosophist, where he was showing the different forms that appear by sound. Now Hudson includes this in his book because he was able to see sound. He would clairvoyantly see particular, almost like paintings that would be created on the subtle planes when a particular piece of music was being performed. And here is what he saw for the overture to Wagner's Parsifal. This book, Music Forms, is mentioned in my book, plus 2 others. Another one by Hudson called Clairvoyant Investigations, and they first appeared in a book about 1908 or 1901 called Thought Forms by Annie Besant and Charles Leadbeater, who were then leaders of the Theosophical Society. And there are some paintings of music in there. To the shamanic level, the Hungarian shaman Joska Zeus, he saw sound spirits, and you can see the paintings of those on the website, which the details are given in the book. There are a number of tables and diagrams and figures in the book to illustrate the points I'm making. Here we have Song of the Mountain Waterfall Bowl, where the frequencies that the bowl produces have been analysed and then tabulated, and you can see the number of sounds that are there at the very beginning of stroking the bowl and how they settle down into these few. And then there are tables that show what happens when you play the same bowl with different beaters, how it arouses different different partials. There are contrasts between struck and stroked, the same bowl, but analysing its frequencies when it has been struck and analysing it when it has been stroked. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about the different partials and meditations upon those different partials. And so then there is a chart, a table, which shows you how I have analysed the sound of one bowl that's being played with different wands to bring out the different partials. So here on page 212 we have when I have isolated a different partial of the singing bowl by using a different wand. So we have the fundamental, and in each case in bold is the actual frequency that is the strongest that is produced. So this proves that I'm doing what I'm doing. This proves that when I say I'm focusing on a particular partial, that is actually what happens in the sound. Obviously I hear it as I said earlier, 4, or it's producing 6 pulses, or 8, or 10, or 12. So I can hear that, I can count those pulses, so can you. But here it's also analysing the sound frequencies of that one bowl and showing how different ones I am bringing out a different partial. Not every bowl will go as far as the 5th partial, which is the highest I've been able to get yet out of a singing bowl. Here on page 308 we have the work of Thomas Rossing, scientist, an acoustician, and here he has analysed the different sounds in a singing bowl, actually a Chinese king resting bowl, which has very beautiful pictures where we can see what happens in the body of the bowl when it is struck. That's why it's included. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope you enjoy the book, Himalayan Sound Revelations. It's available on Amazon and all bookshops that specialise in sound particularly. The next volume will focus far more upon sound healing with Tibetan singing bowls. This book has 500 pages just under, so I didn't have room to write any more about the sound healing, so that will be coming in volume 2. If you have any questions, you can visit my website www.frankperry.co.uk, where you will find a number of articles on singing bowls and sounds. But if you have any further questions, you can email me on the different emails given on that website.